Wonderful.
Our Father in heaven, we come before thee this time as a city, as a council, and are grateful unto thee for the moisture that we've received recently, and pray that we will continue to receive it. Grateful for the elections, the chance that we have to choose those who will lead and guard over our city. And we're so grateful for all the many blessings that we have in this great city of Kaysville. We ask you to bless those who are sick or afflicted and those who are hurting. Help us to find ways to bring them up, especially during this next holiday season. We say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
If you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. All right, any conflicts of interest this evening? None? All right. We'll go on to our consent items. Anybody want to either, I would like to pull off C.
I'll make a motion that we approve consent items A, B, D, and E, and hold C.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Lort, seconded by Councilmember Barber. Any comments? Okay, let's go to a vote. Councilmember Barber?
Aye.
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 All right, and I pulled off C because I wanted our new power superintendent, Brian Johnson, to come forward and introduce yourself, please.
Run forward.
Oh, man.
And yes, he was a pirate for Halloween.
My name is Brian Johnson. I've worked for Kaysville Power Department for 8 years. I've been in the industry for 11. I just recently received my bachelor's degree in business management. I look forward to many more years with Kaysville and hopefully helping develop a very educated and well-trained employment. I love what Kaysville has to offer as a city and as an employee. I think that they do a wonderful job to make sure that they are looking out for all aspects of life. I have a lovely wife who I've been married to for just shy of 18 years. We have 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, and my family is basically my life. Everything I do is in the betterment and with them in mind. I love the outdoors, hence the injury as I was out playing and hiking. But I just enjoy life and look forward to opportunities to grow and stretch and to develop into something bigger and better.
All right, thank you. Any questions for our new power superintendent? Make them easy.
I already gave him the hard ones.
Yeah, don't let Andre ask these. I do have a question. What's your thing you're most excited for doing in the power department? Your thing you're most excited for to bring to the power department?
Advancements in the opportunities that technology has for us that we lack within the city. And I also look forward to the challenge of helping the linemen in Kaysville becoming recognized throughout the state for the quality of work and the type of linemen that they are.
Correct answer. That was great.
All right.
Impressive answers.
All right.
Congratulations, Brian.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Congrats.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, and you'll have many more opportunities to come speak to council. Might as well, but this is the only time I get to bring you up here,
It's a
so,
full house, just like
yeah.
me.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much. I
good crowd.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right. Would somebody like to move C?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve consent item C, appointment of Brian Johnson to serve as the power superintendent.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Lortz, seconded by Councilmember Tran. Let's go with, any comments? All right, thank you. Councilmember Blackham?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion is unanimous. Thank you. All right, we're moving on to our action items. Rezone of 1.7 acres of property at 55 East, 300 South from R18 Single Family Residential to the Public Use Zoning District for Davis Technical College. Lyle.
Thank you, Mayor. So the request here, hopefully is a site that everyone kind of recognizes, so it's close by here up at Davis Tech campus. For many years, this building, this property was owned by the Church of Jesus Christ and used as an institute building. Davis Tech has acquired it recently, and so they are essentially expanding classroom space into it and educational opportunities as they look at their programs. If you go to the next map, Mr. Mills, the entire campus, other than this piece, is currently zoned PUs, the public use zone. While that does also allow for school usage, it's kind of a different process in the R18 rather than the PU, so this just matches this piece with the rest of the campus zoning and essentially is set up for a public entity to function as this certainly is. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this, unanimously recommended approval as proposed. I'd be happy to take any questions if you have them. I don't see the rep from Davis Tech here this evening, but he was there for the Planning Commission just to, again, emphasize classroom space for the campus.
We generally would go to a public hearing. We don't have anybody signed up to speak during the public hearing, so we'll go directly to questions from council. Any questions from council?
I have a question. I listen to Planning Commission, but just so people can know, what is their plan? I mean, I know it can be different things, but
Well, he was not very specific with me. So the church was completed with their use of it. They haven't been running their program out and didn't see the continued use. So it would go from the church type educational space to some of their programs. What I do know that Davis Tech is up to, so since the Allied Health building has been built, some of those programs with nursing and surgical tech and others have moved out of the existing space. So they're renovating those spaces to backfill them with some new programs and expand existing, and then this just continues to add to it for future expansion. They've got a number of potential programs and things that they're hoping over the years they can grow into and expand their offerings on campus.
awesome. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the rezone of 1.7 acres of property at 550 East, 300 South from R18 Single Family to the PU Public Use Zoning District, Davis Technology College.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Blackham, seconded by Councilmember Adams. Any comments? All right, let's go to a vote. Councilmember Adams?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion is unanimous. All right. Enacting Section 17-26-4B, Instructional Home Occupations of Title 17, Planning and Zoning of the Kaysville City Ordinances. Lyle?
This particular ordinance came at us from some interest from residents and some business activity. We were made aware of the staff. And we brought the idea to the commission. We'd been hearing of some things happening in town and said, we can either stop it or is there something we need to find a way to maybe address or accommodate? The commission thought it was kind of an intriguing idea, but wanted to make sure there were certain limitations. So, the idea being in the staff report, we made up some mock scenarios. And certainly there are others, but you have occasion where people have a unique amenity on their property. So these are residential businesses. Maybe somebody has a basketball court and the next door neighbor has the skills that maybe they'd like to teach somebody how to shoot a ball, or somebody has a commercial kitchen and maybe they'd like to do cooking classes at their next door neighbor's house that has that. And so in the event where maybe there's a unique amenity, This would give residents the opportunity to let other people use their home, their property to provide a service. And really that's the unique thing. So with very few exceptions, our home businesses say whoever operates that business needs to live on that property. So this would open it to other people outside of that being able to do it. And, you know, there were concerns, there could be a lot of businesses that maybe aren't appropriate to do in the area, but I think pulling at the heartstrings of Kaysville, and if it's an instructional, educational opportunity, providing a skill, perhaps that was a worthwhile endeavor that we could open it up a little bit more to allow people to do some other things. So the ordinance, if you want to head to the next slide there, Nick, and there's a lot of text on the screen, but maybe hit some highlights. It sets up a process where the Planning Commission could consider an application for somebody who wants to let somebody else use their property for these types of businesses. And it does, number 3, for example, limit the number of people that could come on site to do that. So it is more than just one person in theory. It could be up to 4 people, maybe doing one-on-one instruction with tennis or whatever it might be. And then it also specifically addresses the number 4, the number of students they can be teaching. So it puts a cap, and it specifically gives the Planning Commission the ability to say, we can reduce it from there. You know, 4 doesn't have to be how many we let you have. We're going to look at these case by case and say, yeah, in your situation, you only need 1 instructor and 3 students. They can do that through the conditional use process. And it does try to address, again, it's number 7, it's to teach a skill or lesson. It's not for tournaments. So again, maybe somebody's teaching tennis. You're not going to have an attorney there and have all kinds of spectators. It's a teacher-student opportunity. And then it limits some of the other ones, are very common things that we see with our other home business opportunities where we're not looking for signs, heavy equipment, those types of activities. Again, maybe some examples in number 17 there within the ordinance. The instructional home occupation might include something such as tutoring. So again, that happens commonly where somebody lets a student or 2 come to their home, and we allow that through other provisions, but they couldn't necessarily bring in a co-teacher to help them to do that. So in that particular scenario, the resident actually is operating out of their own home, but then now allowed to have some help. Similarly, somebody might have a program that I've developed the world's best tutoring, and my neighbor wants to use it, but it requires my facility or somebody else's home because of certain equipment. I don't know exactly what that might be, but they could run, I don't know, I need somebody's detached garage or something because it's got a big open space, so the kids can run around and play, and I don't have that in my home, but I would like to teach kids. I could find somebody with a home that has the space I need, set up an arrangement with them to provide that class. Again, so the other examples, swimming lessons, tennis, pickleball, basketball instruction, group music. So those are the intent, the types of things we might see and allow. Essentially, it's just opening up to new opportunities. Based on what's before you, the Planning Commission has made recommendation as written. We'd be happy to take any questions.
Okay. We do not have anybody signed up to speak to this in public hearing, so we'll go straight to questions. Councilmember Black.
So I didn't hear the discussion from the Planning Commission on this. I do want to know a little bit about the discussion on the 4 employees and the 12 people, because generally home occupations are something that you want to lower the impact of what's going on in the neighborhood. And so I think right now our current home occupation ordinance doesn't allow for employees. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah, unless they live in the home, so it's
Unless
essentially
they
the family.
live in the home, their
Yeah.
family or whatever. But, I guess the only thing I can say is, under a conditional use principle, they could limit it to 1 and not 4, but no more than 4. And that 4 would include, say, 12 students or participants, so you could have literally 16 people there. I mean, that is pretty impactful, but I guess I'd have to go back to the discretion of the Planning Commission since it's conditional use. It's not going to come to the council. That was my only concern. It seemed like we're going from nothing to a pretty big number, and I'd like to know what was the discussion on this. Where were they at?
Yeah, so 12 I can speak to pretty directly, and that's a number that we use a lot with the planning commission with daycare and childcare services. That's just a number we've done for many years, that, okay, you can have up to 12 students or 12 children in that type of business. So we just mimicked that as a cap. The employees, is kind of more the new thing in the number. We didn't really base it off a comparison. Partly where that is sort of this known scenario that we understood what they were doing. It's something that started with 4 kids, and then as the kids grew out, there were outside employees replacing them that we weren't aware of as a city, and so that's where the 4 came as a cap, but yeah, it is kind of arbitrary made up, and maybe it's too high as a cap. And then maybe for the council's consideration, when somebody applies for a conditional use permit, basically what we're saying, and you may know this, so forgive me, but yes, we've decided you can't do this on your property, so we're really not going to say no to it. It's just what kind of limits can we place on it, and we should be able to find a nexus as to why maybe 4 is too much and we can limit it. Sometimes that can be difficult. Generally speaking, the idea of too much traffic, hopefully we can limit that, but it's not always that easy. So if it feels like a big stretch, certainly it could be a lower number, but 3, 2, whatever the case may be, if that felt better.
So currently, the way conditional uses work is they are actually can be reviewed yearly. Is that not correct? And if there was a bunch of complaints received by the city, then they could go back and look at that conditional use and possibly deny it, or what's the?
Yeah, the conditional use essentially runs with the property, but because it's tied to a business license, it does kind of have the annual renewal is where that may come in. So if businesses are continuing, we're not staffed, I should say, to where we're going and checking on each one of these yearly. No. But in the complaint basis, if we have had issues and it's not what they represented, or it's changed and causing issues, then we can revoke or go back and add additional conditions or change that. But there should be a change to it generally that essentially spurs that need for an additional planning commission review.
It would be very difficult, though, once you've granted conditional use, to go back and say, you're complying with the conditional use, but we're having problems, so we're going to lower that. That would be very difficult. Once you've granted a business conditional use or a property conditional use, you've kind of set an expectation there that would be very difficult to alter, as long as they're complying with the terms of that conditional use permit.
So the only thing we can really do is limit cars or parked cars or something like that? Is that what you're saying?
I think this does have, looking for the number here.
16's got your drop-off and pickup, but it doesn't talk about parking.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, 16. In my experience, the biggest impact is certainly traffic from home businesses. Mm-hmm. And some of our closest examples are preschools and daycares to what this might look like. And it's that drop-off, pickup, rotation. And the amount of traffic is kind of one thing. It tends to be the staggering of pickup, because then you just double the traffic. And what happens is everyone likes to be close, and people will block driveways. And even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes while they're waiting for their child or whatever, somebody can't get out and get to work on time. Generally, there's parking within the area in the street, so I don't know that just parking itself is as big a problem, but it's just our human nature to kind of get in people's way.
Or race there because you're late and come down too fast the street.
Yeah, there can be that, absolutely. So additional traffic, they're speeding because they're late. Some noise on occasion with a different business. We do have some types where they're maybe producing something, a wood shop, and there could be, and in theory, that could be this type of business if you wanted to teach somebody to use tools, maybe you're
Welding.
doing something like that, right? But I think traffic is, my experience, number one, the biggest hurdle in a residential area. So yeah, as you're thinking about this, does it address it or not? Does it give the planning commission enough leeway that they can address it? I think those are important questions.
So, Nick, does that mean if they were to grant a conditional use up front and said, no, you're only allowed to have 2 employees and 8 kids, then that would be the condition, right, at that point?
Correct, yeah.
And if they wanted more, they could come back later and ask for more on that conditional use if they, no complaints for the year. I mean, if there was a concern with it of some kind, like a bunch of neighbors came out and were all concerned, and so you said, well, we'll give these conditions for now, we'll see how it goes for a year, and maybe we can give them the additional 2 people and the additional 4 kids.
Yeah, you can always give more.
But you just taking away would be very difficult.
Taking away would be difficult, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, where we tend to be able to take away is when they're not doing what they represented. So we really haven't approved a culinary school when somebody's doing swimming lessons or something like that, right? So those are probably the times where we can take action. See, that's an extreme difference.
Generally, a few complaints is not saying they're not doing what they were supposed to do. It's just somebody's complaining.
Right, right. The idea is that the decider, the planning commission, should have anticipated those, and once they've made that decision, that property owner's rights are then vested for that limit. Now, you can certainly give that property owner more leeway in the future, and that's never a problem. You're not locked into that, but that's you've kind of set the floor, I guess.
I mean, I don't mind the 4, but if somebody came in and applied and there was a bunch of people in here complaining and saying, no, we don't want this at all or whatever, and they made a condition that says, you don't get the 4 automatically, but we'll give you 2, we'll give you 8, we'll see how it goes, come back and see us in a year. That's, okay.
I was just going to say, and I have seen planning commission do that and be real specific about specific businesses, because it applies to, maybe swimming, they've got 4 instructors and 2 kids each or something, but something else, they could have more people. So, yeah, I think planning commission does a really good job in terms of vetting it, at least from what I've seen.
Do you feel like,
Councilmember
I
Adams?
guess this is a question, do you feel like there should be some language at the very beginning of this giving instruction to planning commission on those in consideration of these things should specify this, so that they don't read it and say, oh, well, we can at least do 4 and 12, or do they just do that as a whole?
It may not hurt. So there's different sections in our ordinance already that speak specifically to the conditional use process at large and the standards and things they're looking to, and they do this almost every meeting.
Oh, okay.
That they're looking at conditional uses, so they're very practiced in looking at it. That said, commission, we've got a great commission now. We've had them for quite some time, but commissions change. You're putting your trust in them as a council. If you think that's helpful to have it here, I don't know that that's harmful to have additional language, but I think they're pretty well trained.
Well, it's like,
in the process overall.
I think number 14, it would be the one that I would probably want to be number 1, meaning that they should take into consideration and place a limit on the number of instructors, vehicles, students, all those things should be that should be like the first thing they do, is they look at how many should be here, and it can't be any more than 4, and it can't be, do you know what I mean? Like something.
And that would be an easy change we could make here now. If we're not changing the language, we said, let's put this top.
Well, you
I would
do
feel
want to
comfortable
add to
making
it
that
though,
part of
right?
the motion.
I don't know. I mean,
You
I don't
want
know
to
if you
make it
need
a little
to
more specific,
necessarily. I just I would feel, if I were on the planning commission, I guess initially I would look at this and think like this, if the person was asking for 4 instructors and 12 students, and there wasn't anybody here from the neighborhood to say any hubbub about it, I'd be like, well, they've met the qualifications, we should be good. I wouldn't even, I don't know that I would stop and think, is there a turnaround? Is this good for the neighborhood? Is that smart to have that many people? You know what I mean? Whereas maybe if that was my first thing that I read, that I should take consideration of the place and limit the number based off the business, maybe that would make me think a little bit, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of a way to get them, make sure that they think about it.
But you're meaning, make sure the planning commission thinks about
Yeah,
it?
make sure that the planning commission thinks about it. And maybe
Yeah.
they just do that by nature, but.
My personal thought is, and maybe it's because we're spoiled with a really good planning commission, always have been in my experience, that they do. If the applicant is taking the time to come before them, they're gonna have a dialogue back and forth. I think we can assume they're gonna do a good job of fleshing it out.
Okay. Does anybody have any
But
problem with
anybody else
switching
can-
14 to 1?
Well, where it says that they have to apply all of these things to it, I mean, it's not saying do these in order, it's do all of these
But we all
things.
know 14's not as important as
But I have no
one.
problem moving it up to one.
Yeah, I have no problem with
Tell me exactly what you would change.
I just would move 14 to 1, so that's like the first thing they think about, is we need to think
That's
about
fine.
how many
Yeah.
we can limit this to.
Yeah.
And you can even maybe put wording in like, the primary consideration, or I don't know, maybe not primary, but
No,
I guess just move it to number 1 is
yes,
no problem.
It's good enough for me.
yeah,
Yeah, we can certainly do that, I think, with a motion, that's not a problem.
okay.
Make a change like that. Sure.
My final question, if I could,
Yeah.
is just clarification on when an applicant actually has to come before planning commission for this, and when it's just as long as you're within, because I know we changed it a couple of years ago, as long as you're within these regulations, you just
Yeah.
automatically can?
So I think that's one of the reasons that the planning commission was okay with this, and I'm not gonna say it's exactly the same, but we have several home occupation types. I think what you're referring to, council member, is a minor home occupation.
Yeah,
And the idea behind a minor home occupation, as the state said recently, is if you didn't know they were there, they're not doing anything different than any other house, you can't require they be licensed. They're not putting any extra services or
Yeah.
needs on your city.
or impact on the neighborhood, yeah.
Exactly, so that would be generally something without customers, somebody that's got a home office doing book work or whatever. And you could almost argue in a lot of cases, almost even in these, that, well, I often have my friends over to play basketball. This house has people over playing basketball or whatever, but clearly it's a for-profit, they're doing it regularly scheduled. So every one of these is going to be required to come and get licensed and go before the planning commission, because they're simply in a different category than
Okay,
the minor home occupation that is hidden in the
so even if
office.
they completely fall within these, they're not asking for any special considerations, they still come before?
That's correct.
And do their neighbors get noticed? Can you remind me? I
So
remember
what
we
we
changed
do for
that.
conditional use is for these ones, we would put up a sign in front of the home.
Okay.
And then it goes on the agenda. It's not a public hearing per se, but the planning commission, at least traditionally, has always welcomed comment. And
Okay.
so, to, I think, Councilmember Blackham's point, if somebody comes and we've got concerns, that would be, I think, an element that would help them say, okay, we need to limit it in this case. Let's start you with 1 instructor and 3 students, and you can come back later. And a lot of times applicants will consent to that, because that's, if they're just starting, it's the first time before the commission. Not always, but they don't
Yeah.
always have the clientele. But even home businesses do grow, and we do see that, so that would be a likely scenario.
Okay.
I have a question for Nick. So number 2, I understand the purpose of this because an issue came up where someone was being honest and reporting what was actually happening, but they weren't actually the business using their property. So the resident of the dwelling on site need now own or work for the business. So you're just referring to the current?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that's,
It's a typo there.
Okay,
It
it's
should be
just a
need
typo.
not own, so
okay.
that's a good
So
catch.
need not own, okay,
There's also a typo above that with a 9 on the actual ordinance, so.
okay.
Sorry.
Just wanted to make sure that we fixed that. Thank you, because that was a little confusing.
Does that clarify though? So the
Yeah,
intent
yes,
is you
yes,
don't have
yes.
to own the
I was
property.
going to say, wait, they have to, yeah, live there, and then they can provide
That's an
proof of
interesting typo
consent.
that would completely change that. That is,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a good catch.
Okay,
thank you.
all right. Do you want to make a motion?
Sure. I'll make a motion that we approve action item B with changes mentioned, switching 14 to 1, and we're correcting any typos.
Second,
All right, any comments?
Just-
First, I have to say, it's been moved by Councilmember Adams, seconded by Councilmember Tran. Now, any comments?
Just thank you to Lyle
Yeah.
and the planning commission for putting this together. This is nice. A little more clarity. It's always good.
Okay, very good. All right, let's go to a vote. Councilmember Tran.
aye.
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 Okay, motion is unanimous. All right.
Wait. Is that the last time that you're coming up to us?
Yes.
Oh, man.
I would drop the mic if I could, but it's been a pleasure. You know where to find me though.
Thank you so much. We hope we have you back.
I will prep people in Farmington to razz you.
Yeah.
I will prep them. All
Let's just, can you put in the minutes, Lyle, mic drop?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. You know,
What was
we
that?
should
We should do like a boomerang, it just coming back to him.
Yeah.
It's working, don't break it.
Don't change
mess
anything.
with it.
Don't anybody move.
That's right.
Oh, Josh, why you gotta be so practical?
Okay. Next, we are going on
This is
to
Farmington, we no longer want Lyle.
acceptance of a proposal for an architectural assessment and evaluation report contract with FFKR. I am assuming Cole's going to speak to that?
If
Okay,
it's
go
okay,
ahead.
I think Cole can take some questions, but I think this is pretty straightforward, and Councilmember Adams can certainly weigh in as well. We
Mm-hmm.
kind of got together as a little ad hoc committee with him, with Councilmember Adams, Cole, myself, Mr. Danzy, and Fawn with the museum committee. Talked about a couple of different proposals we had. One thing that we really stressed was we think with this action, we can get an assessment of that building that we can begin to make some decisions with. So I was skeptical going into it. I've seen some of the product that FFKR put out that I've been very pleasantly surprised with. And so I'm hopeful that this will give us that assessment that we're looking for. And it's quite a reasonable price, in my opinion. I was expecting something much higher. We are going after a 100% grant through the State Historic Preservation Office. I think is it SHPO? Am I saying there, who are asking for that grant, right?
Yeah, Utah Cultural and Arts.
Okay. Probably related, but maybe not exactly the State Historic Preservation Office. But, so we hope 100% of that is funded, but we don't have to wait. And I think that it would be my recommendation that we do this regardless of getting that grant or not.
Okay, very good. We do not have anybody here to speak to this item in the public hearing, so we'll go straight to questions. Any questions from the council? Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion that we approve the acceptance of the proposal for an architectural assessment report and contract with FFKR.
Second?
It's been moved by Councilmember Adams, seconded by Councilmember Lortz. Any comments?
I have a question,
Yes.
which I know was earlier. Just when can we expect to see like an example of what it would look like? Are you going to bring the report to council? Will they see
The
it?
final report?
Yeah, the final
Absolutely.
report. Okay.
And the example, we could provide you with one that they just did for library. For Springville.
Okay.
It's very detailed.
But I guess my question was, it's intended for public consumption, for everybody to put it out
Yes.
there, everybody can see and scrutinize it.
For sure.
Do whatever,
Okay.
whatever they want with it. Okay, that was my question. And probably recommendation that it's somewhere more visible than just the minutes of the meeting, somewhere on the website. And I can say this because I won't be here, so. I'll be there.
She'll be there.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I really won't, but.
Councilmember Blackham?
The only thing I would like to see them add to here, and I know it's just a technical thing or whatever, but under number 1 where it talks about the architectural assessment, they put structural, mechanical, and electrical. I want mechanical to clearly define HVAC and plumbing. I know that in most cases it does include it, but in some cases it doesn't. And so I want to make sure that they're clearly doing all of that.
Yes, we'll make sure. I know in the Springville report, it did include.
It did include the plumbing,
HVAC, all that stuff, but I'll confirm with.
I just want to make sure, because those are two things that,
Oh, we agree.
yeah. So I just want to make sure that's included,
Very good.
because if it's not included right now, it needs to be looked at, so.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go to a vote. Councilmember Lortz?
Aye.
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 Motion is unanimous. Thank you.
And thank you for Lyle, Josh, everybody who wrote that grant, helped to write that grant, Fawn. I know, Lyle, one of your last things you did here.
Yeah, it was mostly Lyle for sure.
Yeah. Well done.
Lyle.
Hi, Lyle.
What did he say? I missed it.
Yeah, that's right. Got it. All right,
Aye.
very good.
So happy.
Yeah.
He does look happy. What does that say about us? Don't answer that. No one answer.
You don't need to know.
Leave that.
All right, let's go on to our work items. HR manual, paid parental leave policy.
That's mine, Mayor.
Yay.
So the council saw this a couple of weeks ago, well, I think it was about a month or two ago. What we're proposing is that the city authorize paid parental leave. And the last time the council saw this, you had some recommendations, and I think we've covered all those. This is a work item, so you have a lot of legislative discretion here to do whatever you'd like. And I don't think that staff has a bunch of ownership in this, so we just like to make a policy that works for the city if it's appropriate. So the first thing that you asked us to do is change this so that city employees that were eligible could use this 1 and 2 days at a time and shorter than the entire block. And we've made that change. The policy now says they may use the block or they may use smaller sections. The second is that I believe that there was consent among the council that 2 weeks might be a little on the low side. I know that some people talked about 6 weeks, and we've extended it to 3 weeks. Again, we don't have any ownership in that. We were just trying to reflect what we thought the compromise of the council was on the number of days that the policy would cover. This council asked us to look at how often this would have been used in the last 5 years. And I did an informal poll of department heads and found that in the last 5 years, there's been about 30 babies born to city employees or their spouses. So that's about 6 per year, obviously, and about 18 weeks of paid parental leave that the city would be using. We didn't calculate the cost of that per se, because it'd be difficult and it'd constantly be changing depending on which employees had babies. But we did kind of informally consider that most of these employees would probably be closer to the entry level rather than the end of their career. So the cost would be likely in most cases lower. These are not typically department heads or supervisory type positions in many cases. This council also asked us to do a little research on what other cities in the state are doing about this policy. We looked at 10 cities. These were selected somewhat randomly, but only 2 of the 10 had policies. That was Provo and Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City gives a straight 6 weeks for anybody that adopts or has a baby, whether that's them or their spouse. Provo has a policy that differentiates based on birthing parent and non-birthing parent, and that's 1 week for the non-birthing parent and 4 weeks for the birthing parent.
I think it's 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, thank you. I did find this of note, and I won't say which municipality, but I called a municipality, talked to their HR director about this policy, and they said they didn't have this policy like this, but that they had lost employees to one of the cities that did offer paid parental leave, and that employee wished that their city had it, and they felt like they could have kept some of their employees. So, I mean, it comes with a cost, but there's certainly something that employees are looking at. And then finally, the council asked if I could research whether we could create a policy that applies differently to the birthing parent and the non-birthing parent. And that is possible, and Provo has a good policy that does that. In some of the research that I read, there is some talk that some of those policies may be challenged because they have differing impact on people that adopt. People that adopt are never given the birthing leave, and so some of the impacts are perhaps unintentionally different depending on your situation. I think that Provo's policy would withstand legal scrutiny at this point, but I think that probably if you're interested in a paid parental leave policy, the safer category is just to say, if you adopt or you have a baby or your spouse has a baby, we're going to give you X amount of time. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
And like I said, if this needs to go back to the drawing board more, we're not in a hurry. We'd like to just get this one right.
Okay. I think that ideally, I myself would like to differentiate between birthing and non-birthing parent, but because of the physical aspect of it. That's me.
Because of,
The birthing parent has to
Yeah.
heal up.
oh, the fiscal aspect though, what do you,
Yes.
oh, just,
Not fiscal.
oh, I think it's fiscal, and I'm like,
Oh,
I'm
no,
not
sorry,
physically-
no. It's more of an
Okay.
impact on the
Okay.
birthing parent.
I just couldn't hear, yeah, I wasn't following, but now I get
Yes.
it, okay.
Yeah. However, I do feel like anything that we could do to get it on the books to start off with would be appreciated, and it's important. If we as a community value families, and we as a city organization value our employees' families, then it would seem that this is a reasonable thing to do.
I think it's can I speak?
Of
Okay.
course.
I think it's a great plan. I appreciate all the research on it. You've answered a lot of the questions that I had. I do think that the policy should include adopted parents and be treated the same. So that would be my vote for that. And I think that, so you said 4 weeks?
The current policy has 3 weeks.
3 weeks, okay.
For both birthing and non-birthing.
Yep, birthing, non-birthing, and adopting parents.
Okay. I'm going to, actually, I know last time I was thinking that would be too long, but I think 4 weeks would be fine. I'd be okay with 4 weeks, so I'm not sure what everyone else
Okay.
thinks, but, you know, the industry standard is, I'm really not sure what it is, 4 to 6?
Yeah,
With
what I'm
companies that
generally
actually
seeing is
provide it?
somewhere between 2 and 6 weeks.
2 and 6, okay.
Absolutely.
I like the
Okay.
3
Okay.
I think,
Yes, please.
obviously, I'm really excited about this, and I actually, since our last meeting, have been doing just even more research about it, because I know there's so much data about this. I mean, probably a decade ago, a couple decades ago, there really wasn't, but now it's a very interesting topic in our nation at the moment. I won't get into the national ideas, but there's a lot. One study that I found, it was done in 2012, and it's actually a U.S. study. A lot of the studies I found were in different countries, but the U.S. studies showed that less than 8 weeks of paid maternity leave was linked to poorer health and increased depression, and that's maternity leave. And so I really think, because we are kind of sadly forerunners in this in our area, there's a lot of cities that don't have this. I think it'd be really awesome to go with as progressive and generous a policy as possible. I looked and there's a lot of places around the state and around the nation that differentiate birthing parents versus non-birthing. So I think you're maybe right about eventually legal changes to that, but I think we could cross that bridge. I personally, my recommendation, because we're all giving our own, would be 6 weeks to a birthing parent and 3 weeks to non-birthing parent.
I think that's reasonable. That's just me, but I don't vote.
I like the compromise of 4 weeks to everybody, because I'm adopted. No, but that's not the only reason. I just think that, yeah, there's a physical adjustment for sure of having a baby, but there's also that emotional, and I think that that's really what the focus for a paid parental leave policy is for, especially extending it to a spouse or, you know, other custodial parent, so.
I think that, you know, as we start out with it being on the front side of it, as we talked about in the other changes we made tonight with the home occupations, if we start out too high, it's going to be really hard to take it back. If you start out a little low, you can always move it up. And so I would encourage that we start out, let's try it, see how it works. And if we're finding that, you know, there's reasons to move it, then we can always add additional weeks or differentiations at that point.
So would you recommend that we keep one
Yeah.
time period?
I mean,
all?
I like the way that this has been presented. I like the 3 weeks. I think offering the 3 weeks is something way in addition to what we've had. I'm kind of, let's try the 3 weeks and see how that works, see what kind of input we get back from the employees, because I don't know anybody around us that actually does offer this other than some of these cities, and I have a hard time comparing us to these cities because they're a lot bigger and their budgets are way more than ours are. Not saying that the impact isn't the same to their budgets as it would be, but I think, especially where it's gone to the employees, my understanding, wasn't there an employee, didn't you talk to some of the employees about this and some of the recommendations were from them?
Some employees have talked about this, yeah.
I had employees reach out to me, yeah, it was really helpful.
And I do like I think the 3 weeks is something to start with and see how it goes, and that's kind of where I'm at with it.
One comment I would interject on that is that when we say we're just, see how it goes, it's very different than a home occupation policy, because this is someone and their family, this is their emotional and physical health we're dealing with, and waiting, it may be a huge difference for that employee who's having a family. So I think we tread very generously here because of how sensitive and how important this is. If it's important now, and it's worth being generous now.
Councilmember Adams, you haven't spoken yet.
Yeah, I'm just digesting. I mean, obviously, the last child I had was 12 years ago, but all 3 children, I was back at work 2 days later. I was selling cars, I mean, and so it's hard for me to put a grasp on the non-birthing parent having 3 weeks sounds long. I would have loved that. So, I think I'm just trying to digest is part of the reason that I'm not speaking. I think for the non-birthing, I think 3 weeks is a long time, and that sounds very generous.
Like maybe they want to go back to work?
Yeah, I was back at work.
I get to sleep tonight, hun, because I got to go to work tomorrow.
No, I think I can see, especially 3 weeks paid leave, it would have made a big difference, I think, for my wife, for me to be there. But there does, come a point in time where you're gone so long, you think if someone took a month-long vacation, how long that takes for them to get back into the swing of things at work.
They do have 9 months to prepare for it.
Yeah.
If they're a good employee, they will make sure it is very planned. They know what's happening. They don't know the minute they'll start taking it, but they'll know it's coming. And I think we could trust our employees to be really responsible.
I'd be all for the birthing parent to have, 4 weeks to start. I think 4 weeks and then 3 weeks for the non-birthing. I don't know. Is that
So 4 and 3 is what?
4 and 3?
Sorry, I couldn't.
That'd be my thought. Initially. 6 weeks for the birthing. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I finished
Why not 8?
Yeah, my finishing comment was I do think that there is a rational reason to differentiate between a birthing parent and non-birthing. And if we can support it legally, that was my preference before. I would give 6 weeks to a birthing parent, 3 weeks to non. And I think it's very generous. I don't think that a non-birthing needs to have the same level of support.
You can certainly legally do that. You can, and Provo's written a really good policy that provides less leave, but differentiates.
And I'd feel comfortable giving an adopted parent the 6 weeks, because I think there is a time period that you would have to get to, that's a huge change, and one person should be there with them. I guess we can't say.
Would it be both parents, though, in that case?
Which one?
That's where it's hard.
Well, okay, so when we're talking non-birthing parent, we're talking about the spouse.
Spouse or
Right.
adoptions.
Adoptions, they would
Or
both be
adoptions,
non-birthing.
okay.
Right.
Can we separate those, spouse, treat them one way, and then,
Well, they're not always spouses, right?
right, okay, let me think here.
Partner.
Okay, well, someone. a custodial parent, maybe between custodial parent and a non-birthing parent. I think the non-birthing parent and the birth parent should be treated the same. I'm okay if we want to treat a custodial parent differently.
I don't understand what a custodial.
Well, like the spouse or
The birth parent?
No,
Okay,
right?
let's make this easier. What we're talking about birthing parent, we're talking about moms who gave birth, right?
Correct.
But, so
Mostly.
because they have undergone a medical event, they would need more time, right? However, adoptive parents,
Wait a second.
probably, they need time too, but probably not 6 weeks. You don't agree?
I don't agree with that, but I might just be in the minority on this, but I don't agree with that.
But, so Councilmember Bertrand, would your recommendation be 4 weeks for both, for everyone, adoptive, birthing,
Everybody.
everybody? Okay.
Yeah, see, if we're gonna do it just flat, I'm still staying at the 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I think this is such a good conversation.
Yeah.
Even if I disagree, I just want everybody to know. I
Yeah.
really appreciate everybody caring about this. Even just having the conversation means a lot to me. Can I just make a motion and see where it goes?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I will make a motion that we pass or we move the paid parental leave policy to an action item with the specification of 6 weeks birthing parent leave and 3 weeks non-birthing parent leave.
I will second that.
All right, it's been moved by Councilmember Barber, seconded by Councilmember Adams.
And just a reminder, this is just to move it to an action. So we
Yes.
still have next meeting to change or finalize or whatever.
Yeah. All right, okay, let's go to a vote on that.
Do we comments first?
Oh, yes, please, comments.
Well, we haven't, don't we vote and then comments?
No, I thought
Oh,
we
okay.
did the
Sorry.
comments before the vote.
Okay, go ahead.
You got it seconded.
Motion.
I mean, I would be open to possibly going to the extra week for the birthing mother, but I think the 3 and 3 is pretty generous, and I mean, I'm open to listening to that. I don't want to kill it, but I think 6 is just too much.
Okay, any other comments?
You could make a substitute motion if you wanted to put different direction to it.
The substitute motion I would make is I would just say that I want to move this to an action item with the caveat that the non-birthing parent is 3 weeks and a birthing mother is 4 weeks.
Okay, do we have a second on that substitute motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any comments on the substitute motion? So it's 4 and 3. Okay, so let's go to a vote on that substitute motion. Councilmember Blackham?
Aye.
Could we still change it at the action
Yes,
item?
you
Yes,
can.
you can.
Good.
At this point, I think you're just giving staff direction. We'll come back with and if you don't like it at action, you can always table it. We're in no rush to do this. This isn't.
Yeah, this does
But
not
your
approve
your
it.
recommendation, if this motion passes, would come just written up like you have it right now, but with the dates or the time frame that he
4
had.
and 3.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, he'd bifurcate it.
Yeah.
I'm going to say nay.
Oh, my turn.
Yes.
Okay, it just moves it to a discussion, right? I will say nay as well.
Okay.
Aye.
Nay,
Okay, and,
he already voted.
yes, and so that, the substitute motion fails. So we go to the original motion, which is?
Mine.
Which is yours, and it,
6 and 3.
6 and 3. Okay, so we're going to go to that motion, and Councilmember Adams is going to vote on it.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay,
So that one passed.
Yeah.
that one passed, okay. All right, so what that does, it'll move it to an action item and we'll probably continue to have discussions on this in the interim.
One comment I would add,
Yes.
I meant to say this, and Nick, the way you wrote it was fantastic in here, and then that's really important to me, is that it can be taken in smaller increments. So it may not be someone gone for 3 full weeks. It may be a week, I'm back a week, I take a week, as long as it's in 3 months, which I think is reasonable. That way they're not stretching it out forever. And that could help someone transition back to work a little bit better. And like I said, we're going to trust our employees to do the best thing, but I think we've minimized our risk there, because if they couldn't do it, they'd probably take all of it. I would, at the first chance. So I think that's good. And then, I don't know if this is specified, I meant to ask this last time. We don't have any stipulation of them using their sick leave or vacation leave before or after. It doesn't affect anything. It's totally separate, right?
Yeah, this is just bonus leave, I
Okay.
guess is how you categorize it. They can use it in conjunction with vacation
Awesome.
or sick, but this is just, I think the idea is that you'd use this in lieu of your sick time. Save your sick
Awesome.
time for when you're sick.
That's so important, so thank you.
All
Tell me,
right,
talk about the next item.
which leads us right into personal time off proposal. And is that you, Shane?
Yep, thank you,
Okay.
Mayor. Continuing on with the HR manual theme tonight, we have, as Mr. Mills had mentioned in his item, we discussed this several meetings ago, and felt like there's some consensus on the council to look at a PTO policy that would replace our current vacation and sick leave policy. I will be honest, I had my doubts when I went into a meeting and discussing this, but I've come back with something that I'm very excited about. We have met as kind of an HR staff ad hoc committee and put this together, blatantly copying it from another city, frankly, that I felt like answered most of our questions and concerns. We also addressed it at the department head level, answered questions and concerns at that level, and then I presented it to the employee morale committee too. So I think we've really got this out there in the city. I think we've been able to answer most concerns and questions, and hopefully you've had a chance to look at what Mr. Mills put together with the resolution, and we're here to take questions. I think if this was something you were interested in pursuing, we would make this applicable starting January 1.
All right. Yes.
I have a question.
Councilmember Blackman.
Okay, so I looked at it and I looked at the table. I liked the table and everything. The only thing I didn't like is it said department heads will accrue biweekly PTO at 10 hours from the date of hire. I think that's too high for some new hire, for somebody that you don't know what their performance is going to be and whatnot. And I also thought that was something that we wanted to be able to use in negotiating, trying to get somebody.
I think it's a very fair comment. We didn't change much from the policy we copied, and that was in there. In fact, Mr. Mills and I completely talked about that very thing, and we debated it back and forth, so.
Now, I
if that's
can
something the
understand
council
starting
agrees.
them at the second hire rate,
Yeah.
because they're a department head, and then making them wait before they hit the 10, but also use it as a negotiating thing if you're
Which we've
trying.
done in the past. I've done even since I've been here, so.
Okay, that was the only comment I think I had.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on this?
My
Or
only comment
questions?
to the starting paid leave is it's such a good negotiating thing, and it's so good, because you never know what's going to happen with a new hire. It makes it super awkward if they have a family emergency or something, or family vacation. Or it just takes the pressure off of like the department head or someone to work on that.
Okay.
Do we have anything in place, maybe it's my bad for not reading this entirely, that prohibits them from taking multiple Fridays off instead of taking it congruently?
That's the manager director's
Yeah, you
discretion.
do have to get your leave approved, and
Got it.
this is no different than that, but, yeah, we've had some concerns with some leave that we've had to buckle down a little bit and.
Seen people do that where they just keep giving themselves 3-day weekends.
Yeah.
You know, there is such a thing as 410s.
410s.
Yeah. And we do have several employees who take advantage of that, and we get good service
If
from
it
them.
works for their work and
We
their.
do that on a case-by-case
Yeah.
basis, so
Yeah.
one
I see
department
no
over at
reason
the
not
ops center
to-
does that, and the other department doesn't. And I think for those two different departments, it works, both of those
Yeah.
two ways, so.
You just, when you think about like how varied the work is across the city, they're so different, like parks versus public works versus like administration
So
here,
true.
totally different, and I think,
Public safety.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
on an equal playing field.
Well,
yeah,
that's
so you
like
just trust the department heads to,
building department, we did the 410s, and it worked out so good for us
Yeah.
because when we were dealing with the actual public, not the contractors, the public, they work in the mornings, they go to work early, and they come home. So we were able to stagger,
Yeah.
and if somebody wanted to meet us before work or after, we had people here to do it.
so
And
nice.
It just worked out good, and we were able to stagger and make it
Yeah.
a lot better.
Yeah.
So I just have a couple of
Yes.
questions. I didn't see a conversion paragraph to talk about converting existing vacation and sick into PTO.
So what we were proposing, and we didn't want to put that in the HR manual just because we were going to just do a blanket grandfathered situation. What we were proposing to do would be to convert all vacation time to PTO and all sick time to the short-term medical leave bank. So that bank has a 480-hour cap. We would probably propose to just, if you have 1,000 hours, just put 1,000 hours in there. And then just follow the policy on how you could use that. So people that have had years and years of service and hours, they wouldn't be losing those. They could be more of an insurance policy.
And then how is this table compared to existing benefits?
Do you mean like financially?
So right now, they're getting vacation of X in these tiers, hours of vacation and X hours of sick leave. How does that compare to these?
Yeah.
I think it carries right over. And my understanding is that, me and Chief Erickson were looking at this, Chief Erickson and I should say, we were looking at this the other day, and it's just slightly more, I think it was 0.15 hours more under the PTO than they were getting both vacation and sick leave combined.
So then I guess the last question was if we're trying to go to PTO, what's the purpose of having the short-term medical leave?
Well, it's just that insurance policy that sick time, I guess, currently gives folks. There's certain things you need to do to qualify for that short-term medical leave. And I think what it is to me is, and I think Councilmember Lorch, you brought it up last time, is having a short-term disability policy. So rather than purchasing that like an insurance policy, it's kind of serves as that, and would only be used in, I would think, very rare occasions. You'd have to use a bunch of, I think it's 80 hours of PTO before that even kicks in. So we used the example of Mr. Story in his situation this year, and that would have kicked in for him. But a one-time event, I don't think he would have even gone much into a short-term medical leave bank. So.
Okay, and then kind of the last question on the benefits then is we've got the cash out annually in here, which I think is similar again to what we have now. So it's not really an incremental. I guess I just wanted to clarify for residents understanding what's this different. It's not really materially different. It's changing terminology and trying to make it a little simpler, that you don't have to try to justify why you're taking time off to get a doctor's note to use sick leave versus vacation. It makes it a little simpler just to administer.
I think it is very much so, and what I really like about it is I lost a couple of days last year too because I was up against my 240 cap, and this would allows you to get it purchased back because we don't have sick time anymore, and that's what we used to purchase back. So, you're doing away with the why do I care if this person's off scenario,
Yeah.
who's abusing their sick time. There's a lot of
Are you
excitement
really
about that.
sick?
Yeah, you're really sick.
Yeah.
It's 3 days. Now do we need a doctor's note? All that's gone. And I think that's really
Yeah,
exciting.
no, I'm very supportive. And then the last question, not related to this policy, but tied to it, does the city looked at a long-term disability policy?
We do have a long-term, I was going to even check that before we talked tonight, but besides just disability, which I think kicks in after 90 days, I think the city does purchase a long-term disability policy. Levi, do you know that? I don't want to put you on the spot, but.
No, that's fine. I mean,
That's
we
my
can
understanding, too.
check on that later. It's a very inexpensive benefit to
Right.
provide for employees, but a great safety net if somebody does become disabled. So, thank you. Good job.
Very good. All right. Any other questions on this?
Just a comment,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
But like when we talked about this a little while ago, we had the sick, we had the vacation, and we just weren't sure. I just think it's really awesome that this council is willing to adopt something kind of drastically different and change based on what we're seeing working in the industry and that we've all personally in our careers and such have used. And it may not seem revolutionary to some, but I think it is. I think it's a very good step into employee wellness.
Mayor, if I could just mention, I know this is going to sound like brown nosing, but this completely shocked me, the way that you behaved as a council about this policy. I didn't see that coming. I didn't know a lot of the details at that time, but, so this was completely driven by you. So I think it's a good thing, and I hope our staff see it that way too.
Absolutely. It's a cool
Yeah,
thing to be part of.
the only fear is that they don't take vacations and they just take the money and then they go crazy.
We do ask them to take 5 days.
Literally
They have, they're required to take 5 days before they can cash in anything. So they have to take at least 5 days, so 40
Must
hours.
take it. That
But
was
that is
for
fair
people
though,
like my
because
husband.
some people never will.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, those kinds of folks, yeah.
Yeah.
But some people do exactly what Councilmember Adams mentioned. They just save it up because they want to cash it in, or, and also keep in mind that cash-in policy, it's 50 cents on the dollar, so it hurts. It can hurt. Of course, if you're up against your cap, it's easy to do, but some people will choose to do that because they want the money and they're getting 50 cents on the dollar.
They see dollar signs instead of vacations.
Right, right. And we don't, and you're right.
Which
I
would
hate
be
to-
even
hate to
more
do that.
expensive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it is a good point.
I just have one question, maybe it's a silly question. So PTO cash out is 50 cents on the dollar, but PTO at separation is $1,
Yes,
right? Okay.
that's the
Okay.
100% their leave when
Okay.
they separate for retirement or.
Okay, all right.
Opportunity.
Got it, thanks.
Okay, all right. How about we have a motion to move this to an action item?
I would make a motion that we move the the personal time off proposal to an action item.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Lort, seconded by Councilmember Tran. Any final comments?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, let's go to a vote. Councilmember Tran.
Aye.
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 Bye.
All right, it is unanimous. All right, then we are going to HR Manual Early Retirement Incentive Proposal.
Thanks, Mayor. We one more time. We talked about this in conjunction with the other item a couple meetings ago, and well, obviously, these are two separate items now, and this one would be something, again, in our HR manual that would allow those that are in the tail end of their career that we say working for health insurance, acknowledging that people are working and they're not just doing it just to get health insurance and they're not doing anything. But there are those in our city currently and will be in the future that otherwise are qualifying for retirement, would like to retire, but can't do so because of a health insurance situation. So this is a proposal that would grant up to 2 years if under those certain circumstances. There's a couple of bullet points there on the staff report, if you read, that they'd have to have no other health insurance and would have to retire and have some other responsibilities there that they'd have to meet in giving us some lead time in that retirement as well. So we think this is a good policy. We think it can make financial sense as well. We think this is a good way to promote from our current employees and get some other people in key jobs before we lose them to other organizations, as we may have done today. And so I think it will be a net benefit for our city.
Okay. Any comments?
I have a question.
Questions, yeah.
So is the up to 2 years at city manager discretion or department head or?
I think it would be the full 2 years as long as they continue to meet those guidelines. So if somebody's 63 and a half when they retire and they're going to get Medicaid at 65, it would only be a year and a half. That's probably my only, and we can make that more clear, but that was my intent.
Okay, so it's really just if you give 3 months' notice and you retire from the Utah State and you're not qualified for other insurance, you get 2 years.
Yes.
Until you qualify for some other insurance.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. Sounds like everybody fully supports this, Shane. From the,
I think it's great.
everybody's like, yep, make it so.
I hope so. I think it could be a good thing.
I'll make a motion that we move the early retirement incentive proposal to an action item.
Second.
All right.
Ooh, that was a
Time.
Go to the tape.
yeah, arm wrestle.
We let Councilmember Tran have the last one, so we'll give it to Councilmember Barber this time. All right. Okay, so it was moved by Councilmember Lords and seconded jointly with
Co-seconded.
Barber and Tran.
Double second.
Let's go to a vote. Councilmember Lords.
Aye.
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 Okay, it is unanimous. That was great.
Did we
Okay.
talk about the police officers when they're just sitting in their car, they don't get paid or something like that?
Yeah.
No, that's only when they're eating a donut sitting in their car.
Or pulling you over.
Or I was just gonna say, I've seen some sneaky patrolling in my neck of the woods,
All right.
probably specifically for me.
So you guys legitimately volunteer to come here tonight, right?
Voluntold, yeah.
I like
Yeah.
Fair point.
All right, let's go, call to the public. We don't have anybody signed up to speak. I'll open it up. Anybody? No? Okay.
I do.
All right. Now, we'll go to
Yeah,
Councilmember report.
Levi, do you have your public?
I'll say thank you on behalf of my wife and myself for the parental, all these benefits, but I know my wife was really thinking about writing letters to say thank you to all of you, but I'll say so thanks for discussing and entertaining this.
All right.
So
Good
lots
deal.
more kids in Levi.
That's the news.
From a big family.
Put in a twins addendum.
No
No
doubles.
multiplier in there.
Yeah, if you have twins or triplets, you don't get three
It's in
times.
You probably deserve
It
it,
actually says
but
Probably needed at that point, but.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to council member reports. Anyone?
I've got,
Oh, first, I want to go to Councilmember Barber. She's got some good news.
yeah, probably the best news to report that as of January 1, Kaysville will be collecting our ramp tax finally. So 70%.
Thank you, Kaysville. Thank you,
70%
Kaysville.
pass rating, so that was a very great thing. Probably the most unified we've seen our city.
Thank you, Council Member Barber.
Oh,
Thank
For
you.
your
Yes.
excellent work.
Yeah. And
very
thanks
rewarding.
For being the champion of the ramp tax, and I know that generations shall call you blessed.
Or curse that one penny.
All right.
Thank you.
Council,
Yes.
did you have an update?
So I just want to make sure we announce and remind everybody that Kaysville Gives is going to be happening November 19th through December 10th. And we'll have the Fill the Fire Truck happening on December 4th from 10 to noon at the fire station. So start planning to get your gifts and items to help donate there. They go to needy families, and it's been a great event in the past years, and I'm sure this year is going to be even better than it has been before. So we appreciate the generosity of our community and encourage you to participate and help others. And were you going to mention the state ARP grant?
No, not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
Yeah, wait a teaser.
Yeah.
For the two people listening.
There's that.
All
We're
right.
applying for more
My
grants.
husband's always
Yeah.
happy,
We
so.
are
not
applying for
tonight.
grants,
Oh, yeah,
as
so maybe
always.
just.
Okay.
I did want to say.
Yes.
A huge congratulations to Councilmember Tran.
Oh,
Yeah.
Very.
Mayor-elect.
Mayor-elect, that's.
Mayor-elect.
Thank you.
And a really well-run campaign by all candidates. It was really refreshing to see, and I think
It was.
hopefully set a
It was,
really
yeah.
new, good standard for Kaysville. So sincerely, thank you.
Yeah. Kaysville's kind of the burned-over district at this point, so
Hey,
You know?
coming up though, hey,
Yeah.
on the rise.
I think we're good. It's good.
I'd like to see more mudslinging.
Was it kind of dull for you?
Yeah, come on, Tammy. Why you gotta be so nice?
All right.
Discovery Channel and less like Bravo.
Hey, I will tell you, kind of talking about celebrity and fun, My wife got to sit next to the guy that's on Skywalker Ranch, or Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, really?
Isn't that the ghost show?
That's the like strange phenomenons.
Yeah.
And, you into
I would have maybe moved away a little bit.
So all we know is that season 3 is almost done and he didn't die.
Oh, spoiler.
Okay.
Put that on my
Let's
list.
see.
Skinwalker.
Oh, Skinwalker, okay.
I don't know. I'm trying to think if I have anything. I don't think I do. How about city manager report?
We'll miss Lyle, as you all know.
Yeah.
So grateful for all he's done. I've been sitting by Shane Pace from Farmington today, and hopefully not tomorrow, because I'm mad at him. And he doesn't seem sad at all. Doesn't even seem like he cares that he
And,
plucked him from us.
and what
No
I
remorse.
told Mayor Talbot is, and I told this to Lyle as well, I am happy for Lyle to have more challenges, because it's definitely challenging over in Farmington. But I know that Farmington will treat him well. So, and they will appreciate him.
They will.
As we
They
They don't
have.
even know what they're getting, so they'll
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
very
The
happy.
one thing I can always say is that the grass is always greener on the other side because you don't see the manure sitting over there, especially in Farmington.
Yeah.
Good point.
There we go.
Good point.
All right.
But please apply for Kaysville's job. Anyone
Okay.
listening?
Let's, I think we need to move to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All
Oh,
in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
All right, okay.
when are we gonna arm
Now,
wrestle?
we are moving into Kaysville City Redevelopment Agency meeting. And that would be
Yes,
Shane.
normally
All
probably
right.
would be Lyle, but we excused him after leaving. But we have a resolution here that is just a step in the process that we're going through with Zions Bank on redoing some of our RDA. And this is a designating an area, and it kind of kicks off some necessities that we need to do to redo that. So I hope it's relatively self-explanatory, but if you have any questions, I probably can answer them, or I can find out who can.
I like that, Sierra.
This is just a start, right? Then they'll reduce the map as they go through and look and see.
We won't reduce the map, but the idea there is that you ought to, as long as you can justify to your other agencies, you really want to throw the net out wider. It's probably the opposite of what we've been talking about with resolutions, because you can, we're going to just pick and choose things inside that area. But
Yeah.
Does that make
So
sense?
the one question, I know I've brought this up a lot, is that I still believe that we're going to have redevelopment along 200 North East towards Highway 89, and we don't have that included in this map.
yes. So maybe the idea would be just to extend it along 200 North. I'm trying to remember what our discussions were.
Just to me, it
Even
would
at the
just,
West
be the
Davis corridor.
front block of 200 North and north and south sides.
Oh, sorry, did you say east? Or
Going
west?
east
Going
up to
west.
89 from center.
Yeah, I don't know that we talked about that, so if that's something we,
Because this isn't something we want to change very frequently.
no.
And I do believe that down the road, as those freeways are all finished, that is going to be looking, people are going to look to try to get rezoning in
It isn't
there.
something we want to change frequently. I guess I would wonder, though, if that development is going to happen between, I think maybe, when did we put this into place? Maybe in 2013-ish?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's been 7, 8 years. So is, if the next iteration is in 10
30.
years, are we going to be developing
Closer to
that at that time? So that might be the only thought. But I'll be honest with you, I don't think we talked about that specific area in great detail. We were just kind of focused on where we might spend money and where we might want to.
So is this the same map that you'll present to the school district and everybody? So what is the percent you're looking at?
The percent?
Yeah, if you're gonna give incentive, is it gonna be
Oh, I
50,
think it
50,
just-
60, 80,
I don't know
60,
that we
40?
have anything that that concrete to present to them.
No, this just
Okay.
gives the
This
opportunity
just gives the opportunity to do
evaluate
something in this
incentive.
area, whether it's.
But isn't that something they're going to ask you if
I
you
think for a
go to
specific
them?
project, we would have to do that if we wanted them to participate. We'd still have to go back to them again. We do
So
need to
you're
go
gonna
back
have to
them
go
just
back to
redo
them on
this.
each time
Yes.
somebody
Yes.
proposes something?
Yes.
Although I think this is an easy thing to do, is just saying, we're just creating the area, we have some maybe opportunities downtown, we'd like to spend on it, and I would think that would be something they would be very receptive to. Now, if we want to, that IHC property, we want to throw a bunch of money at that, then we would have to revisit that specifically.
Okay, so, and then just to help me understand this a little better, let's say that Mr. Romney over there decided he wanted to do a big remodel or redo. So that would give him some incentive, and he would actually get his taxes reduced, wouldn't he, based on the percentage that you come up with, based on a
It's
payback of so
Completely
much?
negotiable.
That's what I mean,
Every
so
time it's negotiable.
you're making this so that everything in here will be negotiated
Yes.
separately?
Absolutely. And we could just do money from the city. If here's $50,000 from our RDA. It's in this project area, it's identified as a need, and this council could just do that, or we could go to the taxing entities and do some tax increment financing. We could do some TIF too, so.
What about like
Completely up to us.
when that golf, those golf folks were coming in, that doesn't fall within
Yeah,
this?
it's just already kind of been decided what it's going to be. So, but that was on the west side of I-15,
Yeah.
where that,
Yeah, it's just outside of this map area is the only reason I'm saying, like, so we would still have the option of being able to give incentives to people?
No, not with this.
No.
Not if it's not
You
inside
wouldn't.
this
But
map.
I guess in my opinion, it's kind of been decided what that is, so I don't see there's an opportunity there to bring them in when it's, rezoned half of it to residential and the other commercial is kind of.
That would bring the
spoken
question
for.
of why you include the industrial park in this zone if it's already.
Redevelopment.
Yeah, either redevelopment, and I think there's a couple of spots there, maybe just south of, up there by Camping World. There's a spot there that might be something,
think-
again, we're just
I thought-
trying to
I think so. I
I
mean,
thought Kim Keller was
you never
already-
know.
give us the opportunity. That's kind of what this is about. That's why I think the net is thrown out a little wider than it probably would be. If we wanted to be more targeted,
Well,
we could
because-
be, but
You want to open creativity.
yes.
You don't want to stifle it. You want to say, if you want to come invest in something, we are open to hearing your ideas.
That's right.
Okay. Okay, very good. Any other questions on this project area? Okay, I would entertain a motion on this resolution.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution designating a survey area, authorizing the preparation of a draft community reinvestment project area plan, and authorizing and directing all necessary action by the agency.
Second.
Okay,
long.
it's been moved by Board Member Barber and seconded by Board Member Tran. Any comments?
Just the questions are, I just want to make sure we're always going to have the ability to come back here and discuss what increments we want to be or where we want to be. I know the district's kind of drawn a line and said, this is all we're going to do now. We're not going to do anything more or less than this or whatever. And
Yeah, you'll have to make all the decisions on spending for the RDA, collecting for the RDA, triggering tax increment. That's all has to be done by this.
And then what we
redevelopment
decide
agency.
here is what we'll have to take out and present to the other
Right.
entities to say, oh, you buy in on this, or,
Yep.
so, and the only other, well, I don't have any more questions. That's good. Thanks.
All right, let's go to a vote. Board Member Barber.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion passes unanimously. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
That was really good.
Wow. I hope you got all that, Anne Marie.
Somebody must have had too many drinks.
You're going to have to go like slow it down on the recording. What was said?